Now, we've been discussing moral premises. And it's worthwhile reminding ourselves that premises are just reasons. So we're looking at different kinds of moral reasons in this case, and we're seeing a certain conflict in moral reasons. If you noticed, a key moral reason cited in one of the arguments related to each of the problems, in one it was the majority opinion, the other one is the minority opinion. The moral reason to the conclusion that you should turn the trolley or that you should push the fat man off the bridge was that if we can save 5 people by killing one, then the right thing to do is to kill the one. That is to minimize the number of losses. Now that seems pretty reasonable, or at least seemed pretty reasonable in the case of the trolley example, but it seemed far less reasonable for people who accepted that principle when they got to the fat man example, pushing the fat man off the bridge. They didn't find that one acceptable in those circumstances. Then there was the other principle, which people did find acceptable or found it to be a good principle in the fat man example. That is why you shouldn't push the fat man off the bridge. That is, it's just wrong to kill an innocent person, even if it saves 5 others. Yet, most of the people, when it came to the first example, the trolley example, thought that that was not a good reason. And we've noticed one thing, that these two kinds of reasons, these two premises, or these two moral principles, at least seem to contradict each other, right? If you follow one principle, it takes you to one conclusion. If you follow, in a case, if you follow the other principle, it takes you to the exact opposite conclusion in that case. So the question is, how is this argument analysis, how are we going to resolve this? How are we going to think about moral premises, moral reasons? And I think there's a connection between moral reasons and moral theories. That is, philosophers have proposed many moral theories that are supposed to account for what makes actions right or wrong. And some of them seem more plausible than others, although there is no universally acceptable, there's nothing near a universally acceptable moral theory. But I think if we examine a couple of moral theories at various levels of morality, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a second, we'll see that maybe we can at least come to an understanding of when to apply the principles, when not to apply the principle. So, and the important question that we really need to answer is there some way to determine which moral reasons are good in which circumstances? And it seems a lot of people in my classes usually think that there is a way to decide you apply this principle in this case and you apply the other principle in another case, and why that in fact makes sense, and it's not this seeming contradiction.